The One That Got Away. A Story of Love, Regret, and Redemption. By David Keaton. Chapter 1. A Love Once Held. The rain pattered softly against the cafe window as Elena Carter stirred her coffee absent-mindedly. She wasn't really tasting it. Her mind was far away, lost in memories of a love that had slipped through her fingers. Across from her, her best friend Mia watched her with a knowing look. "You're thinking about him again, aren't you?" Mia asked, her voice gentle. Elena sighed, pressing her fingers against her temple. "I don't know why I can't shake it. It's been 3 years, Mia. 3 years since I let him go." Mia leaned forward, curiosity piqued. "Have you ever tried reaching out?" Elena shook her head. "And say what?" "Hey, I made the worst mistake of my life letting you go. Are you still single?" "He's probably married by now." Her voice cracked slightly and she took a deep breath. She never thought she'd be the one left wishing for a second chance. Chapter 2. The Man She Let Go. 3 years ago, Daniel Wright had stood in Elena's apartment, bags packed and heart heavy. He had loved her deeply, but she wasn't ready for the kind of commitment he wanted. "I need to know, Elena. Do you see a future with me?" She had hesitated, afraid of making promises she wasn't sure she could keep. "I don't know, Daniel. I'm not ready." And just like that, he had left. No anger, no bitterness, just sadness in his eyes. It was only after he was gone that she realized what she had lost. Now, Elena scrolled through social media, curiosity getting the best of her. She typed his name. Daniel Wright. Her heart pounded as his profile loaded. There he was. Same strong jawline, same warm smile. But one detail stood out. He was back in town. Chapter 3. A Chance Encounter. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. Elena hadn't planned to see Daniel, but fate had other ideas. She was at the bookstore, flipping through a novel when she heard a familiar voice. "Elena." Her stomach flipped as she turned to face him. He looked good, stronger, more confident, but the warmth in his eyes was still there. "Daniel," she breathed. He smiled. "Wow, it's been a long time." "Yeah," she said, struggling to keep her emotions in check. "I heard you were back in town." He nodded. "Just visiting for a few weeks. I've been working overseas." Elena's heart sank. He wasn't here to stay. This was temporary. And yet, maybe this was her chance. Chapter 4. Old Feelings, New Realities. They met for coffee the next day, falling into old rhythms as if time hadn't passed. They laughed, reminisced, and for a moment, Elena let herself believe she had another shot. But then she saw the ring. Simple, elegant, engaged. "You're engaged," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Daniel followed her gaze and smiled. "Yeah, her name is Emily. She's amazing." Elena felt her chest tighten. "She's lucky," she whispered. He met her eyes. "You know, I used to think you were the one." Her heart broke a little more. "I know," she admitted. "And I let you go." Chapter 5. Letting Go. Elena sat alone in her apartment that night, staring at an old photo of her and Daniel. She had spent so much time regretting the past that she had forgotten to live in the present. It wasn't fair to him, and it wasn't fair to her. The next day, she sent Daniel a message. "I'm happy for you. Truly. Wishing you all the best in life." No response came right away, and she didn't expect one. But a weight lifted off her chest. It was time to move forward. Chapter 6: The Man Who Stayed. Through it all, there was one constant presence in Elena's life: Lucas Hayes. Lucas had been her friend for years, the one who made her laugh when she felt like crying. Unlike Daniel, he never pressured her for anything. He just showed up. At first, she didn't think much of it. But then one evening, as they watched an old movie, Lucas turned to her and said, "I've been in love with you for a long time." Elena's heart pounded. She had never seen him this vulnerable before. But she wasn't ready. Chapter 7: A Confession and Rejection. "I don't want to ruin what we have," she said softly. Lucas exhaled slowly. "I get it. You don't feel the same way. It's not that. I'm afraid that I'll never love you the way you deserve." Lucas nodded. "I think I need some space." And just like that, the one person who had always been there walked away. Chapter 8: Realization and Redemption. Days turned into weeks, and the absence of Lucas in her life was more painful than she had expected. Mia, always the voice of reason, listened patiently as Elena spilled her feelings. "You rejected him because you were afraid," Mia said. "But isn't love always a risk?" Elena stood outside Lucas's apartment, heart pounding. Finally, she knocked. "I made a mistake," she admitted. "I don't want a life where you're not in it." Lucas studied her before stepping aside. "Come in, Elena. Let's talk." Epilogue: The Right One. Sometimes, love isn't about chasing what was lost. It's about recognizing what was always there. Elena had spent years regretting the past, but in the end, she found that love isn't just about timing. It's about choosing the right person. And sometimes, the one that got away was never meant to be the one. Because the right one was waiting for her all along. Copyright 2025 David Keaton. All rights reserved.